Hello, everybody, and welcome to this month's edition of the Watch Club. We're the monthly filmmaker interview series of the Newburyport Documentary Film Festival, and I am the program director, James Sullivan. We're brought to you by, as always, by the Ford Hall Forum, which is the longest continually operating public lecture series in the country, based right here in Boston. So we thank them, as always, for helping us to bring you this programming. Don't forget to subscribe and like our YouTube channel so that you can continue to get updates on our monthly filmmaker interview series. And we are here today to talk about to the filmmakers Josh and Rebecca Tickell, who are have just cut an amazing new deal with Prime Video for their films about the climate crisis. What we'd like to do first is to show you the trailer for the most recent of those films, which is called Common Ground. And then we will be right back to speak with the filmmakers about their series of films about climate in honor of Earth Day.
What I'm about to tell you is a matter of life and death. If the soil dies, we die.
The facts have been proven. Roundup does cause cancer.
If you burrow deeply enough, there is a pipeline of money from the pesticide industry into those universities. They're getting the kind of science that money can buy.
Nature is the mother of us all. And if mama ain't happy, we're f***ed.
But there's a way to save our precious soils. It's called regeneration.
Regeneration is not just restoring the land to the state that we found it at, but actually making it better.
We have added over 96 tons of carbon per acre into our soil. Can we mitigate climate change? Absolutely.
We're going to check the underwear in the regenerative versus the conventional soybean field and see if we can tell a difference between the microbial activity.
We've eliminated insecticides, pesticides, herbicides. We are saving upwards of $400 an acre. It works out to be about $2 million a year in savings. That is serious cash.
I forgot my suit. I feel like I'm underdressed. But if you are the people who can make a change, well, it's high time to finally get regenerative agriculture. Let's prioritize the farmer. Out here in the fields, I found my meals.
It's a connection to the land. It's a connection to those that came before us and those that are going to come after us.
Sally, take my hand.
We can change everything. There's hope.
I said this letter is a warning, but it's also a promise.
So I'm gonna fight like hell to save your future, my children.
Because I love you.
Let's get together before we get much older.
Josh and Rebecca Tickell, welcome to the Watch Club.
Thanks so much, James. Great to be here.
So your films, Kiss the Ground and Common Ground, are going to be rolling out on Earth Day, a week from today, on Prime, on Amazon, on Prime Video, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Can you, and then you have another film about the climate crisis coming in the pipeline called Groundswell.
We have another. We have another film on the climate solution.
Okay, thank you. Yes. So yes. I was thinking as I was watching the trailer that you are doing what you're doing is basically I'm a journalist, solutions journalism rather than just stating the problem, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, your films are about showing what the solution could be.
Yeah, and you can report on either. It's not that one is not valid, right? But we do as human beings tend to focus on fear. It's the amygdala, the reptilian part, fight, flight, freeze, and climate tends to just, oh God, we're all going to die. So let's, we either report on it or we just ignore it, right? But what if there was another way?
I think there's been plenty of reporting on the crisis and not as much focus as you're saying on how many documentaries really show us how we can stabilize the climate.
Right. Well, several of yours
That's
for
true.
starters, right?
I mean, present company excluded,
Exactly. Yeah. So tell us, these two films were previously available to stream on some level, right?
No,
not at all.
It's an interesting situation.
Yes, so please, that's what I wanted you to tell us.
A version of Kiss the Ground was on that other streaming service with the big red logo. Okay, it was there.
It goes
for a long time.
Yeah.
And it did really well. In fact, it came out during COVID. People who got tired of watching Tiger King were offered Kiss the Ground as a secondary thing to watch. And it was Woody Harrelson, Carrots. They were like, what's wrong with this? Great. But I think it hit awareness at a time when people are most affected health-wise. They were thinking about their bodies, thinking about health, COVID, maybe it has something to do with food. Maybe that has something to do with soil. And the film kind of put those critical connections together for people. And so that film was a very successful streaming venture. Common Ground Common Ground's the second film. That was Kiss the Ground. That's the first film. Common Ground's the second one. Common Ground's only ever been in theaters. So only people who physically went to a movie theater got to see it.
Mm-hmm.
So next week on Tuesday, I don't know, if this are we live today or is this being time?
We're live at the moment, but we also a lot of folks actually watch these interviews after the fact as well. So yes.
I kind of feel like my life works like that. I'm live, but then I it's like that happened. So no matter when you watch this, it'll be on Prime starting April 22nd.
Right.
That'll be the first time Common Ground streams globally live for people, and that will be live. I mean, when you hit play, it'll be live on your screen.
Right.
So, that's incredible because what we saw with the movement when Kiss the Ground hit was it was a sea change, really a sea change. And the version of Kiss the Ground that will be on Prime Video has never been seen.
Right.
That's the director's cut.
Right.
So pretty cool.
So
didn't mean to correct you, but
no. I wanted you to explain, of course. Yeah. But so tell me how you the films are. Tell us about what Groundswell, what you're covering with Groundswell. Obviously, continuing to talk about soil regeneration, but in what way that makes it, like an addition to, not a refrain of the two films that we are talking about now.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing about Groundswell, I'll just jump in. I know you've got something here, but Groundswell, the word, has two different meanings.
Mm-hmm.
It means both a movement and a massive wave.
Mm-hmm.
And the third film is about both of those things.
Mm-hmm.
It reveals the secret thing that we only touch on in the first two films to balancing the climate. So it reveals that, and I'll give you a hint. It has to do with water, like wave, water. And the other meaning is it's a global movement. The film chronicles the global movement toward regeneration, which is, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Rebecca?
That's it. That is it. Yeah, we traveled the world and we saw, all these microclimates where regeneration is happening, where massive destruction and desertification had been happening.
Right.
And we saw these communities and individuals and, heroes basically bringing their land back to life, and then in real life and all of these different microclimates, what that looks like and what the benefits are. And so, and then you think to yourself, wow, if these climate refugees in northern Uganda can grow their own food and create regeneration and heal the desert, then what the heck are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, it really puts things into perspective. And it also shows like how it works in all these different environments. And it goes more deeply into what each person can do to participate in the movement and how we can get it done in time.
Right. So, Josh, you mentioned a minute ago that when the original version of Kiss the Ground first came out in 2020, that there was a sea change, that there was a shift in thinking. Can you elaborate on that? In what way? Like, I mean, for sort of average Americans who pay some but not full-time attention to the climate crisis, what can you tell them about that sea change that maybe will make them feel a little more optimistic if they haven't seen any of your films to date and are waiting for Tuesday to see them?
Yeah. And definitely join the global watch party. Go to commongroundfilm.org.
Right.
Get on Instagram, Common Ground Film on Instagram. Join the global watch party. Is going to be awesome. Q&A, Jason Momoa, Demi Moore. I mean, and Summer Holder. This is going to Rosario Dawson. They're all going to be part of it. It's going to feel very interactive. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
But the thing that really we're doing is we're connecting soil, food, and health and climate. Right. A lot of people, climate is too big to deal with, but they understand food and health. And Americans, we are categorically fat, sick, and almost dead. I mean, let's face it, right?
That rolled off the tongue too easily. You've said that many times.
It's so many. Well, look at the chronic rate of disease. I mean, we didn't have prenatal diabetes 50 years ago. We just didn't have it. It didn't exist. And now the military is literally shaking in its boots because it can't fill rank because so many people don't pass the health test due to chronic illness that's due to food. So when you can't even staff your own military because people are unhealthy, you got a problem. And so 65% of the calories we consume in this country are artificial calories. The films show us how to flip that around, and not an expensive Whole Foods kind of way, in a very blue collar, inexpensive, real kind of way where you can heal yourself and you can heal your family. And I'm not even joking. People come up to us after the screening. They say, I watched this film a year ago. I changed my family's diet and my child, his autism symptoms dissipated. They started paying better attention in school. They started sleeping better. This metabolic problem happened, is done. And the changes in families' health who watch these movies and take it on like a thing, it's undeniable. Yes, we only have anecdotal evidence because we've been to all these screenings, but when you talk to like 150,000 people and they keep coming up to you and telling you how they've changed their health and their family's health, it's inspiring. And then there's, you could think of the climate as a co-benefit. Doing this type of agriculture, you ask what is the sea change? When we launched Kiss the Ground in 2020, there were about 5 million acres of organic agriculture in the United States of America. Not even regenerative, just organic. Today, there's 50 million acres. That's 4.5 years that change has happened in. That is a staggering. That's bigger than some countries. And that's all transitioning to regenerative agriculture, meaning we're on track to get to 100 million acres. In fact, we have a commitment called 100millionacres.org. It's part of the films. We're on track to hit that number by 2 years. When we hit that number, 1 out of every 10 calories you're feeding your family will be from a regenerative field. And that is a massive change. And yes, the films were part of that. It wasn't the whole thing. It is a movement. We're honored to be part of the movement, but that's a big change.
I'm going to take a quick minute to say that, as usual, that if anyone who's watching live right now wants to ask Josh and or Rebecca a question, all you need to do is type it into the chat, and then we will repurpose it and make sure that it gets delivered to them. So go ahead and ask away if you're interested. So I would like to shift gears for a moment and ask you both. I believe you're based in Ojai, right? Your Big Picture Ranchers is a great name for your work facility, and I assume you live there as well, right? What's it like to work together so intimately and also sort of run a family together, run the family business together?
We both are so passionate about this issue that it's taken us both, over the last 18 years to create these 20 films that we've done. And, we started on climate change, looking at emissions back in 2000. Josh was working on it when I came along, and he and I came out with our first film in 2008 together. And we've come a long way from then, and how it is, we're both really, we're kind of like missionaries, I guess you would say, to the degree that we are committed and devoted to spreading this message. It's like, I guess you would almost call it our gospel, because if you know that there's a solution that can heal the planet and you can stabilize the climate, reverse climate change. I mean, this has been our goal all along. It helps to have a partner to do it with, and we both have unique gifts that we bring to our process.
Different skill sets. Yeah.
And I think
it's like the cult of soil, it's great.
And then when you add children to the mix, which we have 2 children, and they're in our films and they travel the world with us, then it kind of ups the stakes, because then suddenly you're not making the films just because you're a passionate environmentalist. You're making the films and because you love storytelling and you see the power of storytelling. You're suddenly making the film for a very personal reason, which is, it's always been personal for us. But when we had children, it made it even more personal, because, what's 80 years from now going to look like? And how can we shape that future? And then we realized, with this information that we have and this storytelling tool, that we had a huge responsibility. And I think the occurrence for us is that we can't not do it. We have to do it. And so having a partner to do that with, I think, has been part of our success. Yeah.
The films are vibrant and snappy and fun and full of sort of great graphics and personalities and fun musical, it's fun, pop songs that fit certain scenes and all of that.
It's just short of Bollywood, like literally. It's just short of people running across the screen, singing an homage to soil.
Groundswell's going to have a giant dance, choreographed dance.
James, I am not joking you when I tell you we have actually had conversations
about that.
No, about putting cat videos in the corner to keep people's attention through dirt. I'm not joking. Obviously we didn't do that. It was a terrible idea.
No, we've never used cats. We would use something appropriate, like chipmunks,
or chickens.
Come on.
But that's how, we have to keep it snappy. We have to keep it entertaining. We have to get the celebrity power.
We may or may not have choreographed an entire dance scene in Groundswell. Maybe. You'll see.
And Josh may or may not be wearing chaps
in a dust storm. Yeah.
Just
and
saying.
then also, like, if you're going to tell a story about dirt,
right?
It's like
maybe some.
Maybe you need a little Jason Momoa to liven things up a bit.
Speaking of wearing chaps, I think now we're getting into a scene.
Now we can, Josh. Maybe for Groundswell, we need to put Jason in some chaps.
I feel like we're workshopping this. I feel like the people watching at home. Feel free to contribute to the script.
Abs, we could do a scene of I don't know. We could think of something. Yeah.
It's going off the rails. We need some other writers in this room.
I'm sure people ask you all the time about the level of energy from the household name actors that take part in your films.
James,
but,
I have to be honest,
they're all super committed to the issue. That's the point, right?
I have to be honest. Without the actors, the films would be just as popular.
Just kidding. Right. Has nothing to do with them.
Just kidding.
Without the actors, no one would have ever seen our films. Let's be honest. We get criticized.
Hey, really? You want to watch Laura Dern and Jason Momoa? Really? What?
We made 3 movies on oil, and the only thing more boring than making films on oil would be making movies on soil. But somehow we've made a career out of that, and that's our life's passion. But people criticize us for having celebrities in our film because there's an expectation that a documentary is going to be a certain way.
Boring.
Yeah, right.
And make you feel suicidal.
Yeah. Or we should give fair time to
But just, if you want to feel that
we're giving
way,
to Gabe Brown.
If you want to feel those things, just, do doom scroll. It's that,
But we were like, you know what? Forget it. We're not going to go that route. We're not going to be traditional. We're going to do something totally different here because,
if you want to do that, you can watch any number of the other documentaries about
exactly. Yeah.
They've done that. And you know what? Most people don't watch them because you know what? They don't have Jason Momoa in those documentaries.
Or
Demi Moore,
right.
Summerholder, or Woody Harrelson, Rosario Dawson.
Right.
But the reason they're in the film, though, isn't because we were just like, ooh, look how sexy abs are.
Sure.
They're parents, and it's a love letter to their children, and it's authentically from their heart. And, we're all in it, so if it Tell us who we need to put on screen, and we'll put them on screen if it's going to mean that you're going to be interested suddenly in preserving the soil health in your community.
I mean, there are limits. There are limits.
Like if they're in jail, it's probably not going to be.
That's a different film. That's a different film.
So,
I think
I have to ask.
Generation of the prison system films.
I guess that's not a bad idea.
It's a great series. We
Forget
should
the Bollywood dance scene.
Yeah.
It sounds like you need to make
put them together.
climate crisis comedy.
Yeah, I like the Bollywood.
For sure.
Could we do the dancing in the jail?
Right.
That would be good.
I mean,
yeah, but they have to be growing regenerative food.
There is, an incredible amount of, sort of dire warnings in your films, which you then, turn towards solutions to combat.
Yeah.
One thing that I wrote down from Kiss the Ground, I believe, is someone says, according to the UN, we only have 60 years remaining of the rest of the topsoil on Earth, unless
that
we
was
act
like 5
now.
years ago, by the way.
Exactly right. So, when you both know, hundreds of times as much obviously about the climate issue than those of us watching the films at this point, thousands of times. How do you not sometimes just sort of take a moment to kind of let your head hang down and go like, my God, we are definitely climbing a hill that is not getting any shorter.
I think getting related to death is really important. I do. I'm being mostly serious.
Yeah.
I think humans vex a lot on, how they're going to die. And
of course,
versus just being like, we're definitely going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's helpful to walk back from the inevitability of something.
Mm-hmm.
Because it gives you a different sense of what's possible before that moment. If all you do is worry about your death, you're just worrying about like an inevitable thing, right?
Right.
But if you go, okay, this is a done deal. We're all gonna turn into dirt unless we get ejected to space and end up on Mars. And maybe even then.
This is a totally new answer, by the way. I'm fascinated.
The inevitability of that moment then gives you a time horizon,
right,
in which you get to do something.
Right.
And when we look at the climate crisis or the food crisis, the health crisis, the environmental crisis, the biodiversity crisis, everything that the environmental movement's kind of been grappling with for the past 50, 60, 70 years, you go, first of all of those are human-made crises. Like, we made the crisis. And somehow we don't think that we're capable of doing something better. Like, we're just like, oh my God, we made this big scary thing and now we don't know what to do. It's like, well, okay, you made it. So clearly you have the tools and the technology and the power and the mental facility to imagine a solution. And with climate, which is arguably the largest existential crisis that human beings have ever faced, the solution is so incredibly simple. Put the carbon that's up there into the soil. Game over, right? But for some reason, 2 films later, and we're making a 3rd film, people just love to beat their head against this kind of like, we're all going to sort of end up in this Mad Max world of like, we couldn't figure it out. And it's like, well, why don't you just like do the thing that had the carbon be there in the first place? Grow plants. Like, that's why carbon got fixed into the soil. So it's almost like the most elegant, most simple things, sometimes we don't want to see. Humans being tool makers, we want to create really fascinating, expensive technologies. But it's like, does that mean you don't want to empower 2 to 3 billion people to grow food, stabilize the climate, reverse the deserts, create forests, and create a planetary abundance that hasn't been seen since the birth of agriculture in the first place? Because that's all we're saying is possible. And you could do it in like 10 or 15 years.
Rebecca, are you taking notes? Because you said a minute ago that Josh is answering in a way that you've not.
Verizon bill. Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know.
I have one or two more questions for you. I just asked you about, do you ever
Went
take a
over last
moment? Yeah. Do you ever take a moment to despair? And I'm wondering if the films, among other things, talk to folks who are involved with government agencies that most of us have never even heard of. Like, one that I wrote down was the Natural Resources Conservation Service, which is or like the latter day version of a program that FDR created, right? Which is part of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Those services are probably getting hit. I would imagine they're getting hit with the same funding cuts and layoffs that every other government agency is facing right now. How do you both feel about the government's role in attacking the climate crisis or addressing soil regeneration now?
When we were filming in DC, we could go into like the Congress buildings, no, like limited security access, all of us, the senators and the Congress people. When you go to the Department of Agriculture in DC, that's like massively locked down. Like,
really?
There's like machine guns and like major security. Wow. And so it's, when we look at we kind of underestimate the importance within our governmental system of the role that agriculture plays. It's huge. Yeah. And I think that obviously, as Common Ground demonstrates, is that the film really pulls back the curtain and shows how these governmental entities have been, infiltrated with funding from companies that have a vested interest in making a profit from these industries. And it's not looking out for the well-being of people. And we have whistleblowers in the film that talk about how they were fired. And we don't even talk about some people that were fired because it was too sensitive for some. These are people that are in the movie that were, let go from major entities that we're talking about right now. The government, I think, is starting to take a critical look at regeneration because that's the next $1 trillion industry. That's where the money is. It doesn't make it like the way the current system is going. It's driving everyone into bankruptcy. It's driving farmers into suicide. It's degrading the land. The input costs are going up. The yields are coming down. I mean, that whole industry is broken and there's no choice for that industry through the government support to move into regeneration. It's, we're in a situation where everybody now, that's why the film is Common Ground. We're all in this. And so our government is aware of the powers that regeneration have and the role that it has to play. And it's just a matter of, finding that common ground. These large industries are going to start to see transitioning because they're going to want to adapt to be able to survive like we all need to do. And so the government will, where the money flows, that's where we're going to go. And so that's what the government's going to do. But I do think that the will is there to make this transition, although it has been the biggest blocker of us being able to make this transition sooner at this point.
Yeah. Okay. So last question for you. I want to ask about calls to action. People who, are watching this are going to want to know, like, what can I do? And Josh, you kind of already answered that a little bit, like do something, right? Plant some plants, right? Plant some green. But beyond that, and I know that one of the calls to action is to join the Global Watch Party on Tuesday, right? On Earth Day, right? But beyond that, what else are you telling folks these days are their calls to action once they've seen one or more of your films and say, "Oh my God, I'm committed. What do I do?"
Yep. Well, the first thing obviously is share the film. Every view of that film, either of them, Kiss the Ground, Common Ground, that is the movement growing. That is your vote for change, So the more people watch, the more the movement grows. Very simple. The films also have calls to action baked into them at the end. So if you get to the end of the film, which, that's a good idea, watch the whole film, then there's a list of stuff you can get involved in. And if you forget the list, you go to commongroundfilm.org and you click on resources. There are a ton. We have downloadable PDFs that we've written, everything from gardening tips to shopping tips. Whole how-to manual is basically right there for free. You download it, easy. And beyond that, there are links to courses, organizations, things you can do with your company. If you work for a company, things you can do if you were in the food space, if you're not. So many resources that we packed into that website I don't think you'll have a lack of things to do.
Right. So you two and your team have basically created a one-stop shop for those calls to action, right?
And free.
It's an ecosystem.
Just go, yeah.
You know, and also like the most important thing that people can do is watch Kiss the Ground all the way through, watch Common Ground all the way to the end, because there's a big shocker at the end of Common Ground that people will not want to miss. But you want to watch it from first Kiss the Ground, then watch Common Ground, and you watch it because once you watch these films, your life will change forever. It changed our lives. It changes the lives of people who watch it.
It'll change at least, for a short, may not change forever.
I don't know. I think it changes the trajectory of your life when you get access to the information and the education of what that pathway is for how to stabilize the climate. It becomes a no-brainer. You get inspired. You find your role in that movement, and that's how we do it. So watch both films, share them with everyone, get involved. We're going to regenerate the planet 1 inch and 1 acre at a time.
Sounds great. Well, we are here to help. And thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us, Josh and Rebecca Tickell. Really appreciate you taking the time. And we look forward to helping or watching you roll out those films on Tuesday, on Earth Day. And also we look forward to seeing Groundswell hopefully later this year. Is it
beginning of next year?
Beginning of next year. Okay.
Give us a little time.
Yeah, we're still shooting.
Still filming it.
Yeah, okay. So definitely beginning of next year. Yeah.
But commongroundfilm.org, Common Ground Film on Instagram.
Oh, if you have any good ideas for what we should do with Jason Momoa and Demi Moore,
drop them in the chat.
We're totally open to some creative ideas at this moment.
Now's your time.
Sounds great. Stay with us for a brief moment. I'm just going to throw it to a quick thank you to our sponsor once again, the Ford Hall Forum. And thanks again, Josh and Rebecca. Great to talk to you. And we'll see you next month in the Watch Club.
Thank you, James. Have a great one.
Bye.
Be well.